First 2 days, ladies and gentlemen, our third and final day. And Education 2.0 conference firmly believes that the more people that are aware of mental health issues, the less likely anyone will have to suffer in silence. So this is a really, really important topic. And this is going to be a very, very interesting discussion to kickstart day 3. Why promoting inclusive mental health matters for everyone in higher education is the panel discussion. So please could we give a huge round of applause to our moderator, first of all, Dr. Asli Hassan.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I hope we are all awake. So I'm happy to be the moderator on this topic. I work in higher ed, and due to the pandemic, I do realize how valuable it is for good mental health. Okay, we all need it, and especially our students. So I'm very pleased to be part of this panel that is why promoting inclusive mental health matters for everyone in higher ed. So everyone in higher ed means from teachers to staff to students. With me, I have a team in this panel that are well knowledgeable. I'm going to call their names. Ms. Sumana Chatterjee. Is Ms. Sumana here? Okay. Ms. Sumana is an academician with 21 years of experience. She's the Director of Communication and International Programs at GEMS Modern Academy, Dubai. She's founder of Rebuttal and More, a communication and lifestyle school. She believes that critical thinking and communication are the key skills to combat limiting beliefs and work on our inner strengths. Welcome, Ms. Sumana. We also have Ms. Hulya Kurt, founder, Innkick Consulting Business and Family Coach, founder of Innkick, and manager director of Noble Manhattan Coach Training School. So, do we have any more? I think it's just the 3 of us, okay? And currently I am, I'll give you a little bit of my own background. I am a faculty at Khalifa University in Abu Dhabi, and the last 3 years I've been the director of the Center for Teaching and Learning. So the center at Khalifa, we handle faculty development as well as student enhancement. So students do come under the center. We offer co-curricular programs and definitely, and we work closely with our department, Student Success, that handles the mental health part of the learner. Okay, so we will discuss and continue our panel discussion. How much time do we have? It's going to be... Oh, they'll start it, turn it on? Okay. Okay. That sounds good. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Sumana. Why do you think promoting inclusive mental health is important?
Thank you for the question. So I'd like to begin with an incident that happened 20 years ago in my class. I began my career as a teacher, and there was a 16-year-old girl in my class who wrote beautiful poetry, and I was very, very happy with her work. But the issue was she never spoke. She never interacted with anybody. She never, went out to play in the playground. during her recess. And that was something that was really troubling me. So I really wanted to get her out of her shell. And I told her, why don't you do something that really you've been thinking about and you're excited about, and I'm going to support you in school. So tell me about it. She said, Miss, you're really sure you're going to help me? I said, yes, I'm going to help you. I'm here to help you. I'm your teacher. She says, okay, fine. I want to go to the graveyard and write poetry. That was one of the most shocking moments of my life. A 16-year-old girl who has this entire beautiful life in front of her, waiting for her to embrace it, is telling me that I want to go to the graveyard and write poetry. So that was something that struck me. And sometimes, people think that, it's maybe a quirky way, 16-year-old thinking differently. Maybe it's one of her quirks or something that she's thought of at some point in time. Or maybe it is like she's trying to create shock value and impress the teacher. But for me, I was really, really shocked. So I went and I spoke to the school counselor and I said, you have to talk to her. Because this is not something that I'm happy about. Though there's nothing wrong in writing poetry in the graveyard, you could be a morbid poet, and that's fine. So the conversations happened, I interacted with her, she interacted with her, and what we found out was traumatic. Her mother had committed suicide in the room where both of them were sleeping, and she woke up to that. The trauma, even when I talk about it today, I get so overwhelmed. The trauma was so tremendous that it had totally transformed her mindset and her thinking. That was the day, and today when I'm sitting in front of you, for me, I'm a real mental health advocate. I genuinely feel more than anything else in the world, we need to take care of each other and what we are going through. We can be all dressed up, getting a lot of awards and laurels and everything, but we're not internally happy, then that's something that's not right with us. And that's not something that we need to, shun away. We need to focus on that. That's very, very significant. Anyway, with the girl, she's happy, she's working now, because at that time, we identified that she had an issue. I'm sure you would want to know about her and what happened to her. I don't know if she's fully come out of what she's been through because it was too traumatic, but I know that the school really gave her a lot of support and encouragement, and we had a conversation with the father and the family. And I think that trigger point and that one thing that she said in the class was, and because I could focus that there's something wrong, I could figure out that there's something wrong, I think she's better, she's living and she's doing well in her life. So to go back to the question and the story, and why I began with the story, is because I feel that this is something that is the most crucial and most significant thing in the world today, especially after COVID.
Thank you very much. So would you like to continue the same question?
Absolutely. So for me, and I give a different spin because I'm also an adolescence and family and teacher educators coach, and I also did mental first aid. I know how important it is for everyone to be aligned and mentally healthy. And I would like to change that. Mental, if you say mental health, it always has got a bit of a negative spin, I want to change that to well-being. Well-being within yourself. Because we know our young generation at the moment suffers a lot. They do. After the pandemic, they lost hope, they lost purpose, they lost direction. They don't know what they want to do. They have too many options. They get confused. There's too much social media pressure. They don't even know. They can't even find their identity. It's all these crucial fundamental things that we need to unleash within. First, identify and help the young generation to find, establish, and evolve so they can actually continue with their studies. Because if you are not well within your mind, if you don't feel aligned, what's going to happen? They can't concentrate. They can't focus. Right? And for that, we need to really have in each school something around how to manage anxiety, how to manage stress, Because what we have, again, still the old education system exists. That means we've got pressure of exams. We've got competition going on. So we need to manage these students as well in terms of protecting themselves, to give them the tools to protect themselves from the pressure, from the social media pressure as well, from the exam pressure that they have, the general anxiety of the world, because I'm coaching so many students and so many young professionals and young people and even adolescents, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, that they can't even, they don't see the future. And that's so sad to hear, right? And that's why it's so important, it's imperative, it's not a luxury. I'm really emphasizing this again. This is not a luxury anymore. In our century, well-being needs to be definitely present either as a curriculum or something else in higher education. We need to teach, and it's possible, our young generation how they can cope with the life adversities in the minefield of our reality, that they can cope themselves. And that's what my mission is as well, to give them the tools and techniques, and they can do themselves, breathing, creativity, journaling, talking, whatever, affirmations, prayers, and mantras. There's lots out there that for each one of them, a unique method will be applicable. So when they start the day, when they have a hiccup, they can immediately bounce back again. Because we know now, our young generation can't really cope with life adversities. It's difficult for them. It's unbelievable. You know, they're immediately down. They think everything is bad. And I've got, what's going well? He's like, everything is bad. And you're like, everything is bad. Okay, so let's, you know, that's interesting, you know, how the brain works. So we need to keep our young generation now, which is completely different, in a different state. And for me, it's imperative. We need to have in each school, starting even from primary, because kids also feel anxious, fear, getting out of whatever. They might have ADHD, they might have all this stuff, although I don't like to put, you know, stigmas on them, because ADHD is a different way of having their mind working. It's not a disease. You know, when parents are, my son has got ADHD. Okay, so let's refine that. Let's reframe that, because it's a different way of expressing themselves. Their brain ticks differently, right? So that's why I think it's really, it's not a luxury anymore. This must be a must.
Okay, thank you. I think both of you brought the communication aspect. So teachers, educators, we need to pay attention. We need to look at the signs. We need to listen carefully without labeling, but you were able to reach out to the counselors and flag her. Maybe she needs some help. Yeah. And I think we have to be very sensitive and very open. I think what you brought it up is how to reduce the stigma associated with mental health and make it like everything, that self-confidence, eating, well-being, all of those are part of the mental health. So now, since we're focusing on higher education, again, you mentioned adolescent and young adults, because from high school to university, I think higher education, we tend to have, the challenge is we consider them adults, and they really are not yet full-grown adults. So the students are still young adults. They're still developing their self-identity and knowing who they are. They're now being, creating their own image of themselves. So that part of mental health is combined with the pressure of doing well. Because, you know, universities, higher education, we put a lot of emphasis on performance and exams and a lot of the things that they have to manage. They have to manage their time. Some of the issues that we face our first-year students, because the university where I work is engineering and hard science, the pressure of just doing well in class can contribute to their mental health because they have to learn how to manage their time. This is their first time away from home. And you know, K-12, the teachers would tell you, okay, prepare, a week from now there's an exam coming up, or they'll guide you. But at the university, each professor would tell you their exams on the syllabus, and it's up to you how do you manage your studying and preparation for the exam. So all of that contributes to their mental health, really. So sometimes that pressure will make them not eat proper food. That pressure will make them not sleep enough hours. So mental health is really just, you know, getting good sleep, eating healthy food, managing your time, having less stress. All of these things, if you neglect, your mental health can be unbalanced. Okay, it doesn't. You don't have to have a label of a particular illness. You could just become unstable, and maybe the student can now focus in class, or like the young lady you mentioned, she had some issues that she hasn't dealt from home, but it was actually affecting her her work and her life. So what do you say about, so how do we increase awareness, like globally, because many of us are from all over the world. How do we increase awareness in higher ed about the importance of mental health? What do we need to do? Like, not just the senior managers, the president of the university, but the teachers, the staff, all of us, the support group, the community, the parents. What do we need to do to raise awareness?
Okay, so I'm a director in a school where we have 4,000 students approximately. And over the years of training and coaching, the one thing that I've noticed is, you know, any conversation around and about mental health and well-being is not received well by a certain community, certain communities specifically. Because the awareness about mental health is not there at all. So if a child is saying, I'm not feeling comfortable, I'm not feeling well, I'm not happy doing what I'm doing, it's like, okay, please go take a walk. That's what we get to hear from children. Our parents don't believe what we say. So I think it starts and stems from the whole concept on the understanding of what is happening to the child at that particular moment. So the issue is that, oh, I think there is a social stigma. There is some kind of a disassociation from reality when it comes to mental health. It's like, listen, if you're feeling like this, I think you should go take a walk. I have been telling you, you must play football, you need to exercise, you need to eat well, you need to be with your friends. But that's not going to solve what the child is going through. The child is stressed out. And there are certain things. Of course, I'm not a practitioner, or I'm not a medical person who can give you the exact thing that goes on in the brain. But through experiential teaching and learning, what I've learned is acceptance is the first thing. So if a child, especially in high school, because I've been teaching high school for many, many years, if a child is ruffled, something is, and you feel, like I said in my first experience, that I could fathom, though I was not knowledgeable at that time at all. It was the beginning of my career. I had no idea. And mental health awareness has come off late. I mean, there's so much of talk around it now. 20 years ago, there was not so much of talk around it. Though it existed, it has been existing for a long, long time. But there is so much of social stigma that people disassociate themselves from the whole concept of understanding that it exists. Only when you know that there is an issue will you try to solve it, right? So first is acknowledge that it is there. Acknowledge that your child, you know, has an issue. Some people are bipolar. Some people have depression. Some people have PTSD. Forget about knowing about all those aspects. First thing is, okay, there is some issue. I need to address that. Because end of the day, I want to see him happy. End of the day, I want to see her happy. Once you realize that there is an issue and there is something that we can do about it, because the world is continuously evolving, right? Then you can figure out what is the issue or what kind of issue. and what is it stemming from? So I think majority of the times people undertake repressive measures, or they kind of brush it under the carpet saying that, oh, it doesn't really matter. I think you're overreacting to certain things, you know? And I think it happens to all of us at some point in time. We all have those times when we are very happy and excited and everything is going good with us. But then there are times when things are not functioning the way we want it to function. And then therefore the body and the mind reacts to it in a certain way. So I feel, to answer your question, that first is acceptance, and then in finding out what is that one particular aspect, you know, of course, by getting professional help. I think that's extremely important. Like you get professional help for any kind of physical problem, you should get, you know, or any, for these kind of situations when a child is anxious or worried, nervous, not eating well, becoming very thin unnecessarily, suffering from bulimia, or, you know, these kind of conditions. And when you are seeing it, there is no point in putting or kind of garbing it, hiding it. It's imperative that you sit down with the child and be very, very, you know, you have to be very understanding at this juncture. Because they are at the cusp of their, you know, they are at that cusp when they're neither adults, like Dr. Asli said, or and they're not children. So they are very, very sensitive. So you have to have that conversation, find out what it is, and immediately seek professional help. I think that is very, very significant. And definitely, when you seek professional help, there will be psychiatrists, and there will be people who will be guiding the child through the process. And don't stigmatize it. There are children who've come and told me, Miss, you know what, I want to share something with you because I really like you, or I connect with you, but don't tell anybody. So I'm like, what is this that you want to tell me? I'm seeking therapy. So how are you getting therapy in UAE? It's very difficult. You have to have parental permission and everything. But in high school, in college, when they go to college and they're adults, and when they're 18, you know, they can do it on their own as well, abroad and elsewhere. But the thing is that there is always a stigma that people are going to get to know that I am seeking therapy, I'm taking therapy. So this is something that we need to really, really stop. It's natural, it's normal. I think all of us at some point in time in our life, we genuinely feel we need someone to talk to. We need some help. And there are certain conditions where, for example, if you're bipolar, for example, if you have a certain, you know, specific physical condition or a mental condition, when you have no control over yourself. And that is the time when you need that external person coming in and figuring it out for you and telling you what is the best suitable method. And there are ways and means for it. But the first and the foremost thing is acknowledge. And there should not be any stigma around it. Because you are working with the future. These people, these children are our future. And if we are creating a generation where they are scared to talk about what they feel and how they feel, how long can they go? And how far can they go?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Would you like to?
Well, you covered it all. So for me, it's just to see and look at higher education, of course, where we talk about young people, our young adults. And it's about acknowledging, absolutely, but we need to talk about all the day. We need to talk it always, always, always. To acknowledge, we need to know that something is wrong. And for that, we need to raise awareness at the level of, again, home, parents, and at school. And for that, we need to have constant conversations around it. So like we have, you know, class of what? Class of, I don't know, innovation at higher education. We shall have classes about well-being. And I'm not even going to say mental health, it's well-being. What you need to do, starting with the foundation, you just alluded to that. First, taking care of yourself, your sleep, your food, your breakdown time, your teaching them breathing exercises, teaching them about journaling, teaching them how they can get out of this vicious circle, teaching them even how to organize themselves. We have an assumption, as in higher education, I'm not talking about the grassroots at the moment, that they're young adults, they can manage themselves. No, they're lost. They're lost. And that's why in higher education, another curriculum might be around how to prepare for an exam, how to organize themselves, time management, what's important, what's not so important. I call it the chuck it or bucket list, right? What you can check out, no need, and do that kind of listing. There are lots of methodologies that you can use to support our young, new workforce. They are going to be our workforce, right? And for them, it's important that they work as well in a wonderful company where they're also respected. And we need to foster inclusion. They shall not feel left behind. Inclusion is important, not even diversity. Diversity is something else. But inclusion is really that I'm in the soup, I'm cooking with you, yeah? I'm not outside, I'm different. You are cooking the soup. So we need to also have different classes. So, because as professions will change, that's what we talked about yesterday, as well, the curriculums need to change in higher education. They need to address all these different topics as well, so that we have young people who are coping with life. Because at the moment, they're struggling, and they are masking it, and we see that, and then they get out of balance, and that's not good. We should have always little sessions, bite-sized sessions, about well-being, how they can do that. Little, I don't know, whatever is taught, you know, little videos maybe that they need to think in the morning. Or in the morning you start with the yoga, meditation. There must be some classes about meditation where they start for the day and create their mantra. It can be only 15 minutes, right? I'm really talking about practical stuff here. And that's how we can actually support our young generation, how they can see mental health is not stigmatized. It's normal. We start with meditation, we start with a walk. That's how you start your day. This is how you're going to end the day. What are you grateful for? Gratefulness, grateful for the day. The young generation, how I observed from all the conversation I have, sees only the dark side of the world. Climate change, oh my God, we're going to die. Oh my God, the pandemic. Oh my God, this is going to be like this. Why am I living anyways? You know, whatever I do, it will have no impact. So we need to change that thinking, that thought process, with these little bite size, so it's practical. And it's in our, again, DNA. It's like, hey, this is what we do it. This is how we do it. Like we cook, like we eat. You don't even think about it anymore. Yeah? This is where we need to be, that this is normal, because life is life. We had adversities as well in First World War, Second World War, everyone survived. Now there is a different era, and technology sometimes doesn't help either. So we need to even teach our young professionals how they can protect themselves from what? From social media. This is insane at the moment, the pressure that I can see, and the selfies which are taken, and really, and I'm a women's empowerment person as well, and I feel like you're authentic. You're authentic, and each higher education shall be a wonderful institution where the student can live their authenticity, whatever they are. Now we're in a different era as well. Them, they, non-binary, you know, indications, not he, she anymore. We are talking about different, well-being places. For example, in a university, a sign, something like a room where people can just hang out, where there is maybe music, some kind of sound, because let's face it, we are sensory human beings. We need to be stimulated by not only seeing, but also smelling, also hearing, also feeling, touching, you know, and that's so important. So we need to give in higher education as well places where they feel safe. Maybe one room, for example, just for them, a collective room where they can just listen to music, like, you know, when you go into a spa, there is always these wonderful hangout places, right? There's all these birds, you know, cheeking around, something like that. I'm really talking about practical stuff that each institution can do to support and create that well-being. That's our DNA.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Both of you brought great points. And I like the idea that I think what we are touching is trust. How do you build trust with the students, and creating a safe environment where they are welcome to explore their own emotions and their well-being and learn about themselves, yeah? So there are some, and we're gonna ask the audience some of your input. We like to have some of your input and questions. But some of the things that I will get back to it in a few seconds is universities have handled about promoting mental health. When I looked up, it was, they offered telecounseling hubs, okay? Because remember, we are dealing with digital natives. Our students are no longer just going to you don't need an actual counselor being in a room where the student has to go and say, you know, I have some mental health issues. You should have something that is on an app or through the technology. And I think we touched a little bit about social media, but how do we utilize it? So some universities in the US have started telecounseling hubs they provide to increase participation. They also, some universities do a campaign to reduce the stigma associated to mental health. And I think earlier we talked about the stigma. I mean, we rarely see people, someone saying, you know, I have mental health issues, or I have eating disorder. We tend to be ashamed to acknowledge and accept, as you mentioned earlier as well. Another thing that that some universities are utilizing is the peer-to-peer assistance hotline. Remember a few years back, before social media took over our lives, as an educator, I remember in my early beginning career, we talked about peer pressure. And it was like, try to help your students overcome peer pressure. Now, it's no longer a peer pressure, it's a social media pressure. The peer would be someone who they don't even know that person. It's not even an actual peer. It's someone they feel they're similar either in age or in gender or interest. And that person is like thousands of miles away, but that can be a peer pressure, yeah? So universities now are using peer-to-peer assistant hotline. So it's a great way to utilize peers who get some training. I mean, they won't be professional mental health advisors. They can be. But at least they get some training from the mental health professionals, and they can just be a safe place, as you mentioned, the safe place where the student can call and they know it's not an adult, it's someone their age, is a peer, and they can just describe what they're feeling, and this person on the other end can provide like just a listening opportunity. They can listen to them, and maybe they can guide them. Oh, by the way, why don't you see a mental health professional, or why don't you meet a counselor? She could help you. I have gone through similar things. So it's a really, it reduces the stigma, and it's using technology, but using also peers, yeah? So now, before we go to the audience, I want the next 3 minutes for us to kind of look at, we touch trust, we touch safe environment, and we know none of us are actually mental health professionals, yeah? Because if we were, we would be in the next room, the Health 2.0. So I want the two of you, from your experience, I want you to touch something about emotional intelligence. Because at the moment at my university, we do co-curricular activities like events, gathering, as you said, safe places. And what we started is, instead of just mentioning mental health, because then no one shows up, we do things like learn how to learn. Because we know the first year students tend to struggle more. Maybe they have more challenges in Calculus 1. So we provide short workshops, few days, and it's like once a week, and it's come and learn how to learn. So we give them techniques and toolkit, so they learn how to learn. Like, it's like a little bit about the brain and how do we retain information, how do we, you don't need to memorize, and you need to apply, and you need to understand, and you need to ask these type of questions. So we provide these co-curricular workshops, and they're very successful, very, very successful. And by the way, anytime we do learn how to learn workshops, my colleague who does it, she told me some students will reveal that they're having some issues, some mental health issues. They will feel so safe that after they learned about how to learn those techniques, she said they will hang around after the workshop and they will tell her, I have, I have an attention deficit, or I was labeled, I went to a mental health doctor by high school, and this is, or I am going through this type of mental health issues. So they feel safe to talk to her, even though the workshop was not about mental health. So, and I think I like that idea, but what do you say about teaching them emotional intelligence? Because we know now EQ is actually very important. So how do we teach young adults to understand their own emotions, and before they get to see the mental health professional, they understand, I am not in control of how I respond to when I get a bad grade, or I'm not in control, I lose control of when I am under pressure for exam. So how do we help them? What do you think of the value of EQ?
I think that is extremely important and significant because it's very intrinsic, and you delve deep into your personality, and you understand things. But I would like to bring in one aspect that I've been thinking about, and I'm sure I think the leaders need to focus on that. In order to build the EQ, it's very important that all the stakeholders who are identified, who are part of the growing up process of a child, is also intrinsically, included in this whole process. So I think, for a child to grow, the home environment and the school environment and the college environment, and for all these different environments play a very vital role. So one of the things that, before we talk about the EQ, which I was thinking when Dr. Asli was speaking, was, how if I'm doing a lot of things in the college and the university or in high school, but the child goes back to that same home where he's not loved, or he's not valued for what he's saying, or his opinion is shunned, then no matter what I do, it's never going to create an impact. So it is very important to ensure that every stakeholder who is involved in the child's growing up process is made aware of what are the things that are very important for the child. So I think a general awareness session, I think schools do it all the time, making them aware about university courses and programs and future. Likewise, there has to be some of these sessions, whether it's an EQ session for the parents and for the children together. I think that's for the universities and the colleges and the higher educational institutions to decide. But I think that awareness is very important. I teach, I do the activities, and which are very interesting, and then the child goes back home and it's the same story all over again. End of the day, we are all partnering together, because we are all, it's like the entire process, I believe, is like a partnership between all the stakeholders, which ultimately leads a child to be what he or she wants to be. I'll just give one more example here. I changed my daughter's school when she was in grade 8. And she had requested me. She said, I want to study in so-and-so curriculum, Mama. And if there's one thing that you want to do for me, I would request you to change my school. She was in a brilliant school, but she wanted to do a different curriculum. So when I moved into the school, me being a coach and a speaking coach and a communications coach, and I'm training students for debating, public speaking, and so many other things, I was very keen that these opportunities are provided to my child in that particular school. So I met the principal and I said, hello, sir. Good morning. My name is Sumana. I'm very happy to have my daughter in your school and everything. But do you have any of these opportunities? He listened to me and he said, I'm going to answer your question in a while later. And then other parents had other requests. They were like, we want him to do sports, we want her to do this and that. So it was like a parent engagement session with the principal. And then the principal, after everything, said, you know what, parents, I know you're all excited to be part of this educational institution. I'm very excited to have all of you here. But you know what, my principal focus is to just ensure that we have happy children in the school and they remain happy forever. That one line has stayed with me. So when you talk about the EQ and the EQ, that aspect is so important. Whatever you're doing, is it leading to a happy situation? Is the child, does the child feel that I belong here? Does the child feel that, you know what, it's my alma mater, it's my school, it's my university, it's my college, I really want to come back here again. In our time, we never had the internet, we never had all the, frills and the trills of life that we have right now. We were not entitled. So I remember when I went back to my school, I wanted my daughter to study in that school, but we moved places, so she didn't study in the same school where I was studying. When I entered the school auditorium and I was standing somewhere in the corner there, the only emotion that I experienced was I just felt like crying. I was so overwhelmed. I felt that I belonged here. But what is happening with our children and why it is so important, and that's a significant question Dr. Asli has asked, is like, we really need to build that EQ. You know why? Because that's something that's missing. We're doing everything out there, but the basic emotions, the basic feelings, humanity, these things are not there. The entitlement is a lot. And because of the overdrive that parents go into to make the children happy, most of us make the mistake of giving them too many things as well, which also creates a different kind of a situation. That also is a very significant part of the whole understanding of mental health and well-being, as Hulya just spoke about. This whole process of well-being starts with every stakeholder. And so the activities which the college or the high school, whatever they're engaging in to build the EQ, it's very important that all the stakeholders are part of it. A teacher is teaching in the class. The teacher is absolutely insensitive to the child's needs. The child is thinking something, the teacher is like, you have to finish this work. This is your deadline. But the child has 20 deadlines in the same week. But there is no, and so for the holistic development of the child, if you're looking at, developing that through activity, through whatever process that you're undertaking, I think it's very significant to put everybody together at some point in time. So through that, you kind of understand or get better at understanding each other, which leads to a better well-being situation.
Okay. Thank you so much. You will answer the first question we get from the audience. How about that?
I don't mind at all because
Okay.
we're running out. That's okay.
Yes, thank you so much. Can we get any questions? Okay, could you ask us some questions or?
Thank you so much for a wonderful lot of inputs. I intend to work with blind children, and I've also been working with underprivileged children. Now, the observation that I have, I work in the area of STEM, is that in a slum, the children, when they come to do our activities and all, they have very difficult lives, but when they are there, they're extremely happy. I don't know whether it's, there's something else hidden inside which might surface, or it's just, or they're truly happy. And the second thing is, what advice would you give for nurturing mental health among students who are visually impaired? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You want to?
As far as I understood, because you were breaking up, what kind of tools to nurture well-being at school with underprivileged, students, is my understanding correct? I just want to check that, yeah?
And more importantly, blind students.
Blind, okay, got it. That's very specific. And honestly, I don't have any experience in that. But blind students, again, they have other senses which are more developed, right? And I just alluded to that as well. So you can do lots of stuff about hearing, right? So the senses of hearing, feeling, because this is what they do. They feel a lot, the other senses are out there. tasting as well. Nice herbs or something, what's doing good for them, right? So you can use the different senses to really support and nurture mental, or shall I say, well-being with your, students who are out there. And nice audios, music, podcasts, someone saying nice words, slow motion music, anything can work for them. So you need to find the little nudge that helps them, and each student might be different. One student might be more sensitive to the music, the other more to the touch, the other more to the taste. But whatever it is, you can definitely implement these little things, these little changes out there. When they come into the class, maybe have a nice kind of candle which evaporates nice, how shall I say, calm smell in the classroom to make them even more comfortable. Start with the day with the music, or going out in the grass and listen to what? Listen to the birds, So there's a lot that you can do there using the other senses, which are very much developed, and to nurture as well-being. I hope I could answer your question.
Thank you. Any other questions? That was a good point. We have 30 seconds.
Good morning. So the obvious situations when you have well-being or mental health in terms of bulimia or things like that, they're obvious. What do you suggest for educators to identify that there might be an issue with a student, to know whether it's authentic, or if it's and it needs to take action upon, or if it's something that is a home issue, so to say?
Can I? Yeah. So I'll just teach you something that I have used in my classrooms, and it's always worked. So you give a little note to the child, and you say, "I wish my teacher knew." And you tell the child whatever you want me to know about you, okay? And you do it over a period of time. So you do it at the beginning of the lesson, on the first day when you meet your children. And then over a period of time, so maybe about 3 months, 4 months later, you once again give it to them. And at some point in time, I have seen results. When the child is saying, "I wish my teacher knew that I get beaten up at home all the time because I do very bad at math." So now, to answer your question is, how do you know it is authentic? I think that was your question. How do you know it is? So sometimes, if you see a pattern, you have to identify the pattern when you are with children. Sometimes the pattern emerges very easily to you because you are an experienced coach or an experienced teacher. You will see it evolving. You see the same behavior over and over again. Like when I began, I said this child, she wrote beautifully, but she did not speak at all. And I could identify something was not right. And your gut feeling is going to tell you. Instinctively, you will understand. But sometimes you need to take professional help in your school, the counselors, for example. You see there's a trigger point, and you're like, I need to get it addressed by somebody who knows it better than I do. But at any given point of time, the key is, if you feel there is something wrong, whether your gut tells you or whether your brain tells you, address it. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not true. You address it, and when you address it, you will know that it stems from something or the other. Like, for example, when a beggar begs and they ask for money, and you think, oh, I'm not going to give them money, because it is not right to help people like that. It's not allowed. But there must be something there in the life of that individual, why he has come to that particular level and asking for money. So likewise with children, and likewise with adults as well. So, I hope this helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone.